We have talked about it each and every weekend with this guy, the head coach for Saluki Baseball, Lance Rhodes. It is a tight Missouri Valley Conference standings, and every weekend is going to be magnified as we go on throughout the year. And no question, this weekend against Belmont, we'll continue that. And fresh off the 10-run rally last night against Western Illinois. Coach Rhodes, appreciate the time. My goodness, like we said, it's not exactly how you scripted your midweek last night on Wednesday night, but to just find a way to come back and rally and win a game. That does says a lot about your group last night, because after a weekend where you weren't able to win a series, where you really were putting a lot of emphasis on it, to get behind by 10 runs, there's a lot of teams that would snowball and really get out of whack.
Yeah, and I know they had only won 7 games, but to be behind 10 runs, it's hard to come back no matter who you're playing.
Yeah.
One, not only is it hard to get that many runs, one, you got to keep them from scoring too, so you can actually play catch up. 2, you got to play under the pressure of, like, every inning that you don't score, you feel like you just ruined your opportunity to get back in the game. So obviously super proud of our guys for, 1, just making the game competitive, and then 2, winning the game when we had the opportunity to do it. And maybe this is what we needed. I don't know. It's been kind of an odd year. Maybe if we win a 5-4 regular game, maybe nothing really kind of changes. Maybe this jump start just gets us going a little bit. It didn't feel like we necessarily were clicking, but we did have 20 hits. So, yeah. There was a lot of guys who got hits who are hopefully individually feeling a little bit better about themselves going into the weekend. And, we'll see. It's never going to be easy. It's just kind of way that, the season's going right now, and that's okay. And we just got to, over these next 19 games, we just got to figure out a way to win, whether it looks good, whether it looks bad. At the end of the day, we just need to figure out a way to win, and that's what we did last night.
It's an area that we touched up on in some of our post-game conversations. I think specifically you and I touched up on it in our pregame one day in Chicago, getting ready for Game 2 of that series with the Flames, which was a doubleheader that day. But one of the biggest areas, I know that's been a topic of conversation for you and your staff and the team, has been avoiding the big inning on the other end and also trying to get the big inning offensively. Obviously last night, first inning, 8 runs. That's the Friday night game against Murray State. The big inning has really haunted us, it feels like, the last couple of weeks. When you go back and you watch, you can look at numbers, and numbers are numbers, but is there anything in the course of those innings where you try to pinpoint with your guys of, hey, here's this play here, that play there? That's the small difference, guys, of that inning maybe not even being any runs at all to being the innings that they are and have been.
Yeah, I think a lot of those big innings had been errors, walks, and then giving up a few hits mixed in there last night. Or not last night, but over the course of the couple weeks. Last night, there was, it's probably nitpicky a little bit, but I do think that we should have caught the second out. The second batter hits a little fly ball that, kind of pushed back, and it missed coming in play probably by 2 or 3 feet, where we probably should have caught that ball. And if we catch that ball, all of a sudden now there's 1 out. They've only got 1 run.
Yep.
It just feels something feels different, but then that ball drops, and then they hit a home run next, a couple pitches later, and then after that, they kind of earned it. They hit a bunch of balls hard that inning. They hit 3 home runs, and so at least we were filling up the strike zone, and it was just, like I said, I told you last night, we won't see an inning like that again. That was just such an odd thing. To come out, give up 6 hits in the first 8 runs. I don't think I've ever been a part of that before. So, again, a lot of times we do have to give credit for all the bullpen arms that came in after that, because a lot of times when you see games like that, it's just like the bullpen is just one after another where it's bad outing, bad outing, bad outing. And, we were able to play 11 innings after that first inning and only give up 3 runs.
Yeah.
Which, obviously that's
And that was
fantastic.
One swing of the bat too.
Yeah. So, and out of the 11 innings that we played, 10 of them were zeros. We gave up the 3 and the 1. So, We did a lot of good things on the mound last night, even though we gave up 11. I mean, we did a lot of good things. And obviously, with the 20 hits, hopefully, that kind of jump starts us a little bit offensively.
Of course, over the weekend against Murray, the one game you were able to win, a big reason for it was what Al was able to do on the mound for you. Getting quality starts is the goal for everybody. When you get your starter out there, you want them to start that game off, carry that momentum, build some momentum in a game. For what you were able to see with Al on Saturday and kind of think about it a little bit since. What did Al do so well? I know a big part of it was, you said, was mixing his pitches, and that also was a game that didn't get off to a great start initially, but he was able to buckle down and get you into the 8th inning.
Yeah, I think as the course of the season's kind of played out, Al, when he first arrived here, was throwing like a slider, a faster slider, had a lot of sweep to it, couldn't really control it inside the strike zone. And he developed a breaking ball with more of a 12-6 shape to it. And, that's a tough pitch to learn. And, he picked that up probably middle of the fall, end of the fall-ish time. And then I think we're just now starting to see, as the course of the season, that pitch has gotten better and better and better. And the command of it, as far as when we first started the season, it was hit and miss. He could land it for a strike sometimes, and sometimes he would throw it in the dirt when he wasn't trying to. Sometimes he'd be trying to throw it in the dirt, and he would land it, for like a get-me-over strike. So as he's gotten more comfortable throwing that pitch, he's gotten the feel for, okay, this is when I'm trying to throw it for a strike. This is when I'm trying to land it for, a strikeout. And kind of the evolution of that pitch has really helped his game tremendously. His batting average on that pitch is it's 0, honestly. They haven't got a hit on it. So it's a very good pitch. The changeup is a good pitch. So when he's able to mix those in there for strikes, and then all of a sudden you put those in the back of the head, the fastball plays up better. But the biggest thing is the breaking ball command is really elevated his game to another level.
Well, that was an area that you talked about even as we look back to last night was, look, you put up a lot of zeros from a pitching staff, and finding that consistency there. Where do you see is there's a lot of guys, of course, you threw out there last night. There's been many guys you threw out there on a weekend. Where is the staff at this point in the season as you get ready to turn this calendar to obviously the most important month of the year, where you still got half of a Valley season to go, Coach Rhodes? I mean, there's a lot of games here in front of this team.
Yeah, I think, our staff, our team, everybody's kind of in a similar situation to where, and that's kind of what I was trying to convey to our guys last night, the funk that our team feels. Most of the time that's on like an individual. There's somebody, a leader, a person who's supposed to play good, who's not playing good, and that person shows up to the field and they feel kind of out of place because they feel like they're not doing their part. But it's kind of like a team thing right now. So, I didn't necessarily have like a clear way to express what I was trying to say. Hopefully, they understood what I was saying, because we all kind of feel the same way. We're all showing up to the field, and it's, we can look around at each other, coaches, players, and we just feel like none of us are doing exactly what we know we're capable of doing. So, let's not show up to the field and feel bad about it. Let's not show up to the field and feel like, hey, I'm not doing my part. Like, let's just look around and everybody, elevate their game a little bit. Us as coaches we got to do more to get more out of our players. So I think it's more of a comforting feeling for us to be able to show up to the park knowing that, it's no one individual that is not performing or anything like that. It's a group effort. So we just got to continue to try to right this ship as an entire team.
You mentioned, hey, I have to do more as the leader. It's a team. It's not necessarily one individual. When it's spread out like that, what are the difficult challenges of someone in your shoes of you're trying to find the right buttons to push, you're trying to look to find other ways, creative ways to get this team where where you feel like you had a really good evaluation of before the year, where you want to reach that evaluation? What are the biggest challenges in your shoe right now, Coach Rhodes, of trying to be like, hey, I got to try to press this button, or I got to do this maybe a little bit better to push this team?
Yeah, I think the toughest thing as a coach that you look at, and I think if anybody fully had this answer, that they'd be the best coach in the world, but is how do you get somebody who is struggling with, performance to still have confidence, right? Like, I mean, nobody's going out there with full confidence when, they went 3 for the last 25. Like, we've all been there. It's a tough battle that you got to get through. And then I think that's where, as coaches for us, it's more about just going back to your preparation. There's nothing that we're only going to feel as confident as we are when we step in the box and we feel like we're ready to compete. And, I think the number one thing that we've really got to get back to understanding is and I actually saw a video this morning of this where, some of the big leaguers that are very, very good, like they go into the cage and they master what they're good at. And then after they do that, then they'll work on a little bit of what they're not so good at. But they don't get consumed with going into the cage and just doing everything that they're not good at and then not enhancing what they are good at. And I think we kind of got to do that as a group. Really, tune into what each individual player does well, and let's go with what we do well. And then once we feel like we're in a good spot with that, then we can work on some of the things that we're struggling with. But if every one of our players gets back to playing to their strength, then we'll have a chance to be pretty good.
You mentioned some of those strengths, and it even felt like over the weekend you look at guys like Trey Cutchin and Jake Allgaier, guys who feel like they're hitting the baseball well. It's just they're either going right into a glove or just it's not getting that drop, but they're hitting the ball well. They're seeing the ball well. How big was it, which, again, we talked about last night in your postgame, to see Trey have the type of performance that he did, not just offensively but defensively, but to get the big hit at the end. But also, it just seemed it was a big night for Jake, too, after a weekend where I don't think he got a hit. But, man, again, it seemed like he see the ball well to finally see the ball find some gaps and fall.
Yeah, Trey, when he hit that ball last night, you could almost see like he'd take a deep breath and then jog down to first base like, oh, thank goodness. So obviously I hopefully that kind of makes him feel good. Allgaier's situation is probably honestly like one I haven't necessarily seen before. I don't know if I've seen somebody hit as many balls as hard as he has that have found a glove. I mean, typically when you hit, he's probably out of his last 10 at-bats hit 6 or 7 balls on the screws, and not a single one of them have found a hole. And that's hard to do. I mean, typically when you hit a ball, if you hit 5 out of 10 squared up, you're going to find a hole 3 or 4 out of those times. And so that one honestly is a very frustrating situation there. And when you put yourself in his shoes, I mean, you're thinking, what else can I do? I mean, he's found the barrel more than anybody on our offense over the last 3 weeks, and his average has nothing to show for it. So, for him, he's just got to, hopefully, those find a hole every now and then. It's like last night too. The ballpark was playing very offensive for probably about 8 innings. And then the air just kind of died, and it was as dead as you could be. I mean, you would have to hit the ball from second base to get it out of the park once that air got thick and just died. And if he hits that ball 4 innings earlier that he hit in the 11th, that ball's going out of the park. And, so it's just kind of one of those things right now for him where he's just having some tough luck with the bat. But if he keeps swinging it like he is, that's all you can ask. I mean, you can't necessarily look at his average. I mean, that's why he's still at the top of the order, because he's giving us productive at-bats. He's taking walks, and he's squaring it up with, the best on our team.
Is that one of the harder things to do, Coach Rhodes, is to get a guy like Jake where, look, in this game that we all love, it's easy to get consumed with numbers, and it's easy. And in some way, you do need to get consumed with numbers at times to know which areas you can improve, but also more of it's not the numbers, it's the process of how you're going through everything. Like you said, he's hitting the ball on the screws. How do you get somebody to focus? That's what's really important. Even though the numbers you want to get there, but don't be totally sold that it's got to be your batting average. It's got to be those numbers at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, I think that's us as coaches just continuing trying to reinforce those things. We do understand, like, there's a lot of outside noise that, when, somebody sees that you're 0 for your last 10, like, they just think that you're not hitting good. And then also, I'm not blind as a coach, too. I understand that players see those things. They see the batting average ticking down, ticking down, ticking down. And that's kind of the mental thing where, you got somebody that is squaring the ball up, and then it just spirals them into a bad stretch because it's still showing up as no hit, no hit, no hit, no hit. Our job as coaches is just continue to reinforce you're doing everything right, man. Like, it's just unlucky as can be. And, we've got to continue preparing the same way they're preparing and keep taking the same at-bats that you're taking. And, our hope is that they find a hole. I mean, if I was a betting man, I would have lost a lot of money because I would have bet that he would have found some holes by now. But he's just got to continue doing it because if he outthinks it or overthinks it or anything like that, it'll go the wrong direction. He just needs to continue doing what he's doing.
Let's look towards Belmont this weekend on the road. They had a really good weekend against Murray State when they play, and that, of course, is a big rivalry game that's been played for years for them and being within the OVC with each other. So that's one at least common opponent that you've been able to see with Belmont and Murray this year. What do you like about Belmont's team? And like we said, the conference standings, this is one of them. All these teams are really kind of mushed together right now, and there's not a whole lot of separation.
Yeah. No, I think from an offensive standpoint, they can do some damage, kind of similar to Murray where they can hit the ball out of the park. They've got a lot of guys back, a lot of experience. I think I've said that every weekend that we played. They do have a pretty good starting rotation. The prior kid who's going to throw on Friday night, he was a freshman last year. You could tell he's going to be really good. He's made that jump into the rotation. So I think they're a little top-heavy on the pitching. If we're able to get to the starters, then, I think we'll have a really good chance with kind of the bullpen pieces that they have. But the biggest thing is man, when I was talking to the Murray coach, he thought they played terrible on the weekend that they played Belmont. And as I think the league is everybody. It's splitting hairs between 2 through 8, 9. I truly think that it's more about you as your own team more than it is about the opponent that you're playing this year. The teams that are you can see it's kind of ebb and flow because the teams that are showing up and playing well are winning because everybody's similar talent level to where if you don't show up and play good, the other team can beat you. So we don't have necessarily those just teams that are head and shoulders above you, and we don't have anybody that is just way worse than anybody. So it's more if we show up, compete, play hard, play well, we'll have a chance. The one thing is I believe the weather is going to be a little bit cooler. The winds should be blowing in, which I think is probably a benefit to us this weekend with as many home runs as they hit. Being able to keep that ball in the park, hopefully kind of negates them being able to take one swing, put 3 runs on the board. With us missing some offensive pieces, I think that hopefully balances that out for us a little bit there. And maybe that's, an advantage for us. But it'll be a tough weekend. But if we play good, I feel good about it. I really do. And like we said, as bad as we feel that we've played, I mean, we're 2 games out of second place.
Yeah.
And, we don't necessarily need to worry about playing, the numbers game as far as if this team loses, they lose, we win, then we just need to win. At the end of the day, if we win, we'll move up the standings and we'll be in the place where we want to be.
Absolutely. Way too early for that with more than half of the season still to go this weekend, be past the halfway point after this weekend with Belmont and Nashville. All 3 games this weekend will be on the Valley on ESPN. That's how Saluki fans can follow the Dogs this weekend. Coach, we appreciate the time. Safe travels to Nashville and look forward to talking to you next week.
Appreciate it. Thank you.